Can you hear me now? Can you see me? Do you know I exist? I'm going to wait and see. Still no sound. Honestly, I don't know what to do anymore. You hear me? Okay, maybe these are just a little bit delayed. Your live is not registering as live. I put it on live. I forgot to do that initially because I'm a not smart person. I got demonetized last time. Can you hear me and see me, please? See you and hear you. I can't believe I have to start every one of these this way. Maybe it makes me more relatable. I don't know that I'm a moron. Does it? Tell me that it makes me more relatable and likable. That I'm a stupid person. There are various things in this world I'm intelligent in, I think, but there really seem to be a lot more I am not intelligent about, and this would be one of them. So I can see you don't give, bro, guys. If you can tell, I'm honestly. I am on the edge of at the end of my rope and on the edge of, should I say falling off a cliff and make a really bad joke? I mean, the thing that happened yesterday when I spilled coffee on my other, another mic that I was using for Bob Seska's show, and then that wouldn't work for that one. And then I something completely separate went wrong with the lavalier mic, totally different. And now this was happening. So this is literally the third time I've had mic trouble for 3 shows. I'm batting 1,000. I'd be in a Hall of Fame if I were a baseball player and then some. I'm like the Babe Ruth of screwing up microphones. Okay. All right, we're going to do this. I'm going to get in a good mood. I don't care. I'm going to smile. I'm going to laugh. And, I need some righteous anger to go after Joe and Mika too. So let's just do this thing. And yeah, that's it, Chipmunk Mill. Keep trucking. Let's do it. All right, here we go. You may have seen the newest trick from Joe and Mika, who've been trying to save their show ever since they went down on bended knee to kiss a rather large orange buttocks at Mar-a-Lago El Bedbug. When was that now? 2 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago? Sometime right after the election. These tough warriors who said Trump was a threat to democracy went on down and, they just wanted to really sort of size up the man because, you couldn't do that for 8 years and then all the years before that. So let's go back to the beginning, okay? Joe and Mika were never Trumpers. Never Trumpers, right? That means, they were never part of that group, okay? They loved Trump. They fluffed him. They kissed his butt. They had him on their show. Oh, they joked and laughed with him. It was wonderful. And then what happened was that he insulted them. They said something slightly critical. So he went after them. And I think he insulted them and said that Mika screeches or something, something sexist. And Joe was a low ratings Joe or whatever he said. And that was it. And the reason that was it is because if you follow Joe Scarborough's career, you would know he's a bully. He's obnoxious. He really is everything that makes MAGA tick. It's kind of shocking he's not in MAGA, that he didn't stick with it. The fact of the matter is that he is he's from this obnoxious, like sort of in your face, bravado kind of guy. Don't challenge me. You may remember famously Rachel Maddow was criticizing once on a show and he got up and he stormed out. Okay. He can't take any criticism, much like Donald Trump. So for years there, he was the right winger at MSNBC and he sort of moderated a little bit so he could fit in with New York because he, of course, like all conservatives, they love the rural areas and they love it out in the hinterlands and they love it. Oh, right. As soon as he had a chance, he moved to New York City and threw all that behind because they always want to live in the cultural centers we create. But also on top of all of that, Joe moderated a little bit. He still was very conservative. And maybe he was heartfelt when he moved to the left on certain issues. I think guns after Newtown, for example. But on most things, he remained and is a right winger. And his sort of whole being, his aura is that of a right winger. Then he and Mika pull themselves a Pete Hegseth, and they both left their spouses. I think it was Joe's second wife, the guy that lectured us on family values. Remember, he was a Gingrichite, and Gingrich was the first clown, but he was okay with that. And so they lectured, Joe spent so much time lecturing all of us on family values, wanted to take away women's rights to their bodily autonomy before Donald Trump even did it. Okay, yeah, right. But when they start cheating on each other, pulling a Pete Hegseth, okay, it's supposed to be all right. The dynamic between them has been so uncomfortable, and I can't believe nobody has ever brought this up before. Does it not honestly seem to anybody else out there like beaten spouse syndrome? I mean, I hate even saying that, but basically, Joe sits there, looks at you, rah, 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 and Mika goes, "Can I?" And then Joe's like, "Brr," and then he grunts at her and basically tells her to shut up. I mean, she looks down when she talks on the show, like she's should be called Mika because she's meek. She like literally is sort of like that. You don't do that unless somebody, I'm not going to say he's physically abusive. I have no idea. But unless somebody is very, very verbally abusive to you, you all know you've seen people before, and it often is women, but it's other folks too, who, when you know that they're being bullied by somebody. And that's what you get from the two of them sitting next to each other. It's really gross and uncomfortable, and why nobody's ever said anything, why anybody has ever found that appealing long before the situation with Trump. I've never understood. Like it's just it's just okay. So in any case, in that nice little relationship of theirs, when they're sitting there and he's telling her to be quiet when she pipes up too much and he's yelling at all of us, that's exactly what happened when he went down to Mar-a-Lago. Right. So first he starts off, he and Trump are buddies and they're having the show, laughing it up, pissed off everybody else at MSNBC back in 2016. But hey, it's okay because, hey, it's Donald Trump. It's good. Right. He doesn't really mean it. Then he insults them and he means it. He's terrible. He's horrible. They can't stand him. And for 8 years, they tell us with the same stuff that people that were being honest about him were saying. What a fascist he is, what a racist he is, what a sexist he is, what a horrible human being he is. All 7 sins and the 4 horses of the apocalypse and everything all tied together. Like literally one of the worst human beings to walk the earth. He is disgusting. He has every bad male quality that I can even think of. I can even try to acquire. But, so they can't stand him, right? And they share all of that with us, all of it, constantly. What a threat he is. But then magically he wins the election and we find out that Joe and Mika went on a trip down to Mar-a-Lago. And that wasn't even the worst part of it, right? It's the cover up, as they always say, that gets you, right? Not the crime, but the cover up. They go down there. And if Joe ever could be honest about anything or ever could have any humility and say, we screwed up. Yes, we got nervous after he won. I think a lot of people would have forgiven them. Instead, he comes up with this BS line like, I was trying to get a sense of the man. You've had a sense of the man forever. You've known him forever, and you've been fighting with him forever. So shut up. We're not stupid, okay? Although people that watch your show, maybe. Although there were also 50% fewer of them watching your show by that time because they got sick of you and got sick of your lies. So that set Joe off even more. The attacks online, and they lost, I think it was actually 40%, if we're being honest, of their crowd, of their audience, which wasn't a huge audience to begin with by cable standards. So then he goes on and berates his audience last Thursday for about 22 minutes, telling them how they're the idiots. And they're the ones that are still watching. The 40% that tuned out aren't seeing this, who hold him obviously to much more account. It's the ones still watching. So now he's yelling at them. 22 minutes, and his producers. I've been on MSNBC plenty in the past. I haven't gone on in the last couple of years, but I've been on TV a lot in my life, guys. Used to go on that stupid place called Fox, felt like Pravda when you walked in. I went on CNN, blah, blah. I've been on all of them, right? And I can tell you right now that producers generally do not let hosts go on crazy rants like that without just sort of yelling to their earpiece, shut up, stop, you're destroying yourself. The things they must have told him to try to get him to stop, I can't even imagine. And he wouldn't. Because again, he can't be criticized. He can't be wrong. He is just like Donald Trump. He is always right. He's a tough man, right? Tough man. Also, a lot like Donald Trump, maybe he shouldn't act so tough because he could use a few trips to the gym. Maybe shouldn't start with the morning Joe, should start with the morning Jim. Okay, so he now we've got him completely lying to everybody and calling people stupid for not believing his lie. The ones that are left watching his show. So even fewer people watch it. And now they pull out of their butts this, well, if it doesn't work and they hate us and they're still criticizing us and they haven't fallen for it, just add a new host. So John Lemire is joining the show as if like, what? Is he a force field? Is he a shield of something? He's a human shield. They're going to throw Lemire out in the front there and be like, let him take all the punches. Maybe they'll set him up with some bad lines so everybody can get pissed at him and it'll make Joe look better. Like, see, he's the one who really likes Trump. No, they think that it'll change the dynamic, and maybe if somebody like Lemire's on there, who I'm guessing has a high Q rating, that's only can be my guess, which means people like him on TV. They think that that might bring people back to Morning Joe. Maybe people will say, "Oh, it's okay," and you just keep asking yourself, why don't they fire them? They have let down their audience. They are not journalists or commentators, whatever they call themselves. I've never said I'm a journalist. I'm a commentator, and yet I'm still honest. I get things wrong, but I try to be honest. I share with you what information I have. They lied to their audience's face. They treat their audience like idiots. They condescend. They're obnoxious, and it's much more him than her. The worst part with her is just the meekly sitting there, and making us all uncomfortable. Certainly me, but he does all that, and it's just like, what does he have? Does he have naked pictures of the NBC brass? I mean, this is some random congressman who they plucked out to give a show. I mean, he had no name recognition, down from Pensacola. They give him a show, Scarborough Country, which sucked. And somehow nobody watched that show at 9 or 10 at night when it was on 10, 15 years ago. So they gave him the morning show as a promotion. The guy literally keeps getting promoted up for failing. His ratings have stunk to begin with. They're worse now. I don't understand. So now you're going to bring another host into it to make him more likable. Fire him. Overall, MSNBC's ratings are down 50%. I don't watch cable because I find it makes me dumber, but a lot of people still, get some comfort of watching certain liberal shows on there, and that's okay. I have my opinions. You have yours. That's fine. Unlike Joe, we can have different opinions, you see? But the thing is that the network's already suffering and he's killing them. What does he have on them that they won't fire him? He's broken their ethical boundaries, right? Or their ethics rules already. Has done that by going down to meet with Trump, by lying about it, by then yelling at his viewers. I think really every rule of being a host on TV, he's broken. Again, what does he have on you? I could think of a dozen people who would do that job better and be honest with people and would bring people back to MSNBC. Think of right now, like after all we've been through since the election, if suddenly somebody cool who everybody loved was announced as the new morning host, man, you might just get press everywhere right now because everybody hates Joe and because it would be a big story and a spectacle. And you might just get this huge morning show. But no, they're going to stick with him and throw John Lemire in there and try to somehow convince us to watch this overbearing, obnoxious, bullying, lying, really MAGA man and convince us to come back. It's not going to work. I'm going to tell you right now. No one's coming back to your stupid show. No one's trusting them again. And MSNBC, I guess you don't care because you're on the chopping block now and Comcast wants to sell you. But keep it up, and you better hope somebody buys you soon and infuses some cash because you'll die as an entity. You'll literally hit 0 ratings, which I'm not sure if that's ever happened, but you're on your way. Stick with Joe. All right, I'm done. How are we, folks? You could hear me. Could you hear all of that? And this is something I agree with and important to be said because there are still some good hosts over there. And now I see that Greg is with me, who is a fantastic human. And some of you guys have seen before, but I'll say quickly, someone has O'Donnell on here. And how much they love him. And I can't say what you said because guess what? I got demonetized yesterday. They don't let me curse here, which for someone who was born and raised in New York, I find that to be actually a deprivation of my civil rights. I think there's an 8th Amendment violation in there, not allowing me to curse on here and demonetizing me. So I'm just going to quickly say, as I let my good friend Greg in here, O'Donnell is excellent. And the reason he's excellent and what I love about him and others is when they have people that have worked on campaigns before, so they understand political campaigns, it's fantastic. Actually, you learn stuff. But so many of their people talk about political campaigns and never even covered one on the ground, much less worked on one. They have no idea what they're talking about. And for people like me who understand them, it gets frustrating. O'Donnell's the best, in my opinion, on the channel because he gets that. Now we're adding the always brilliant and obviously on every podcast / live stream today, Greg Olear. Hey, Greg.
How are you? Thanks for having me, man. Good to see you.
Well, it's good that you can see me because I'm the stupidest technological human alive. I do sometimes think that not only were my ancestors monkeys, but we're still sort of working the whole thing out. I think I may still have a tail. I'm not sure, but I'm going to check. My microphone, I couldn't get that to work, and I forgot to hit the turn on the actual live stream, so everybody was just basically looking at a thumbnail and not hearing me. So that's how my day's going. I spilled coffee on my microphone yesterday, the other one, and broke that. I'm killing it, man. I'm killing it.
I think I heard Mercury is in retrograde because I'm also having a bad day with my microphones and my technology and all of that. So if it makes you feel any better.
Well, no, because you're a terrific human. As I've said before, my goal is to only have people who are very smart and actually are the same people off camera as on here, and you are that. So I wouldn't want you to have a bad day because you're a terrific guy and you deserve a good day. Whatever I did to offend the god, I'm a Yankees fan. I'm a democracy fan. I'm losing everything these days. So whatever I did, and all my technology's breaking. So whatever I did to anger the gods, I feel like I'm Odysseus. Please.
Maybe let's get Juan Soto to host the morning show with Mika. How about that?
Honestly, at 765 million, I didn't want him anymore.
Yeah, no, I think it worked out fine for the Yankees.
I'll say this because it fits into sort of the theme. I know you talked with and thank you WW for being a member for 1 month, and I'll thank the rest of you guys a little bit later. Greg is on a time schedule here, so I want to make sure we get everything in. But I think he taught you about the billionaire class, and I think we should be defining them all by that oligarchy and the business and the billionaire class. And I have to say again, I try to keep my politics and my sports separate. It can never be fully separate because Jesse Owens was Jesse Owens, and none of us will ever forget this. I wasn't alive, but that is iconic. And Muhammad Ali, and there's just so much more to where taking a knee, for the national anthem. I mean, they're intertwined. I try to separate them because I try to just enjoy sports. But I really have to say, when a human being for hitting a ball well gets $765 million, and there are people that honestly cannot afford food and prescription drugs, like, how many ways do they want to tell us the last month we're in late stage capitalism and an empire about to fall? So that was my thought on him. Is he would have gotten a lot of money anyhow, but 765. In any case, we could talk sports another time.
I mean, if he was also good as a fielder, then I could see it. But it's just a one-tool kind of guy.
He is. He runs the bases terribly, too. And if he runs the bases terribly at 25 or 26, what's it going to be like at 30, 31, right?
Well, we're not going to have to worry about it. So
yeah. Oh, are you a Yankees fan, too?
I mean, nominal. I can't watch baseball, Cliff. And the reason why, it goes into what you're saying. Now, he making 700 whatever million, but, the people who are paying him are the ones with the money. That's the rich class, right? So
yes, that's the billionaire class.
That's what we have to keep in mind here, is that this is a situation where they make us dislike the people whose work is being exploited.
Yes,
for their own profits. So
and every one of those guys should
forget the bag,
91. Oh, go ahead.
But to your point, yeah, it is. You look at it, you're like, something is very, very twisted in our society where we value this over other things. But I don't want to get on that soapbox because we can always get on that soapbox.
No, we can. And we'll do it in the future when you've got more time. And still, I should have said, Jim, if you can grab Greg's bio in general and throw it up there. Maybe you already did. Novelist, author, writer, brilliant guy, commentator. He's got a Substack that I read it, and I don't read that many, quite honestly, because I get so tired of what I have to read all day to do my job that I don't want to go home and read them. And Greg writes so well. He's such a smart writer, and the way he puts things, it sucks you in. It really is. And you can catch him, as Cynthia Rice just put here, on the 5/8. You should also go to and subscribe to his YouTube channel at the 5/8 because it is a terrific show that he does with Stephanie Koff, aka Lincoln's Bible, on Friday evenings. 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock? I'm trying to remember.
8 o'clock. It's right in the name.
Right, 5/8.
Yep.
See, that's the kind of day I'm having.
I understand. I'm having the same day. It's
all right. Well, let's have a better day. And
okay.
Or I don't know if this will make it a better day, but at least you can explain you had a great piece about the 15 things that Joe Biden can do between now and then, and when the orange overlord slithers his way, leaving a pool of slime kind of in a Jabba the Hutt-esque kind of motion towards the inaugural and tells us that America has carnage or something, and everybody sits there and smiles and pretends it's okay.
Yeah.
What gets me, and then I want you to explain which ones maybe you think are the most important, but what's killed me about the last decade and a half, I would say, of Republican rule breaking, law breaking, norm breaking, ethics breaking, if you can do that, is the fact that we actually have had loopholes and tools in the Constitution, or just straightforward answers, but due to like tradition or norms that don't exist anymore, or things that accidentally ended up becoming the way we did things. You talk about the Senate Majority Leader, which is maybe something you want to talk about in your piece of that. That position isn't in the Constitution. Filibuster isn't in the Constitution. Debt ceiling isn't in the Constitution. I mean, we let them hold us hostage in so many ways that don't exist, and refuse to take the paths that have been offered by many people to just say, whereas Republicans will take that path every time.
Yeah.
And I kick to you.
They'll do it because the Democrats seem to be afraid that if they do something, well, then the Republicans will do it to us, not acknowledging the fact that the Republicans are going to do it anyway, and in fact have been doing it for the last, 4 decades now, 5 decades. It's a long time. It's a long time. And what we're asking for isn't much. Like we're on the verge of handing over the government to a guy that's going to dismantle it. He has nominated people in these positions who are going to go in and destroy those positions. This is really, really serious. And I don't know how much, in the first go round with this, you could maybe pretend that, well, maybe he'll be okay. Maybe he'll do this. The generals will rein him in or whatever. We can't make that argument now. We've seen, the last time he was there, he killed 600,000 people unnecessarily by mismanaging the pandemic, and on the way out the door, oversaw an insurrection and attempt to overthrow the government. So what's he going to do now? And in the meantime, he got indicted and convicted.
Right, and that's even skipping all the stuff he had done before he became president. They finally held him accountable for, like rape and assault and other crimes.
So that's the guy that we're dealing with. And Biden's out there pardoning, I'm not allowed to swear, gosh darn turkeys.
I'm sorry. I hate that. I mean, I feel like I need to do a separate thing on that's not on YouTube sometimes, so we can all just curse away, because
why can't we? Since when can't we curse on YouTube? We curse all the time.
They seem to not like me. Maybe like they're part of technology. It's part of the whole thing. I think you have to build up trust. I can curse and we can bleep it a little bit, or even not, in my regular videos I do, but the live streams, they are so sensitive with me. Like, my editor has told me that other folks he edits have not had this problem. And
it's really, see, this speaks to the whole thing, Cliff, because it's like, we have a guy coming into the White House who's a serial sexual assailant and adjudicated rapist and like all these things, but we can't drop F-bombs.
I might curse. That's the problem.
It's no, it's just, it boggles the mind. So what we want Biden to do is help us. Like they've been invisible since Election Day. I've not seen Kamala Harris since Election Day. And I was early K-Hive. I'm in on that. Where are you? You're still the vice president of the United States. Tell us what to do. Help us. Now, there's an idea floating around the internet. And the first place I heard it was from Caitlin Bird, who writes for Dame Magazine and has a Patreon. And the idea is that the Senate would get a vote on whether or not to grant Trump amnesty, because he's an insurrectionist. He's been proved to be an insurrectionist, she argues. During the impeachment, they did not make the case that he was innocent. They just said, we're not allowed to do this. In fact,
it's too late. He's no longer president.
Yeah. But they didn't argue that point. So therefore, Congress has already determined that he is. And third section of the 14th Amendment says that the only way that an insurrectionist, a traitor, can hold office is by being granted amnesty by 2/3 vote of the Senate, which is not going to happen. So we want to have that vote. We want not to get that vote, and then we can just ignore him. I think all of this stuff should be ignored. Like, what would Kash Patel do on the first day of FBI if Chris Wray was like, "Yeah, I'm not leaving. You're not allowed to fire me except for cause. I have a 10-year term, so turn around and get your ass out of here." And what is he going to do? He's going to, like the other FBI guys, are going to rally behind Kash Patel? No, they're going to.
I mean, if he ends up even making it there, I'm not sure he will, but if he does, I think there's a good chance that there's going to be a lot of leaks coming out of there, because it's not just that he's a Trumper, it's that he's really not a very likable guy who seems to piss everybody off around him.
Right. And he's, he invents things. He's not a good person to have that job, I think, by any standard.
Well, he was an insurrectionist, right? I mean,
he said very clearly that he wants to go after people. That's what they want to do. So, we don't want the FBI to turn into a MAGA vengeance machine. I think that's very dangerous. So, but there's other things they can do, and they're just not being creative about it. Like, hand it to Trump. This is one thing you can say about him, and we all hate his guts. He was not afraid to go in there and mess around with stuff. He would be like, is it legal do I have to do this? Is it a law that I have to do it? No, then we're not doing it. And he did that with
temporary
everything.
Appointments, right?
And, any way that he could think to do something that wasn't based on honor or precedent, he just didn't do it. And Biden especially is so wrapped up in this. He's so, God forbid we should, try to. But the thing is, they're going to leave with none of the people in Biden's administration at all were, forced out. There was no scandals. There's no anything like that. It's all good people, right? But it doesn't matter at the end of the day, because they're going to give the keys over to Trump without a fight, without anything. And I don't understand it. He's not allowed. It says in the freaking Constitution, in the 14th Amendment, that we're not allowed to do it. He's disqualified. And again,
like I hate having these conversations, because I don't want to demoralize people. I want people to fight. I want people to try their hardest. But, I sometimes need to do this. I need to have these, because I try to make clear to the Democratic Party, again, I wrote I wrote ads for Biden in 2020, right? Like I was on the team. I haven't worked for him since. So, nobody should think I can make a phone call and get through and say, hey, dude, you should do that thing. All that's what Greg said. It wouldn't happen. I'd get the beep on the other end of the line that I'd been disconnected. But it doesn't. It would have happened even in 2020. Trust me, if I tried to directly call him. But
no.
I don't get it. This is something, though. This has been a long time problem. It just happens to be more heightened than ever now because of who we're turning over to, and it's just we've gotten some House members who are willing to speak up, who are willing to fight back, who are willing to try some tricks here and there and do some things that we didn't used to do. Like, some of the culture has changed. At least Gavin Newsom is doing some things out in California to try to strengthen California and he at least has some leverage because 5th biggest economy in the world, that kind of thing. But it still doesn't change the fact that why is it that I've spent my life fighting, alongside for whatever this party, and always expecting that when it comes to something that is either is something that hasn't been precedent, even if it's correct, or is suffered because of a stupid precedent we set by mistake in the past, that shouldn't exist. I think of President Obama with, we're going to have the debt ceiling. We're going to go, we're going to let it go over the edge. There is no debt ceiling. There never should have been. It's not something in the Constitution. It's something we started doing during World War I, just out of habit, because we wanted to say, hey, well, we have to pay down our debt. Well, but it's already debt you already have. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you have to pay it, but there shouldn't even be a vote on it. It should just be automatically done. And they created this process for it. But then President Obama had numerous other ways out of that. Like, people talked about him minting $1 trillion coin and handing it over to them. He could have done that. And he just refused. He would rather make concessions on key programs that we need than use what was available. And we've seen the same with the filibuster. And you talk about that in your piece. I mean, what's McConnell used the filibuster in the history of this country? 95% of the times, 98% of the times. It just was never used before because it wasn't supposed to be there. In the Senate's a majority-run body. It was created by accident. And it's a stupid vestige of a stupid time that never should have existed. And this man has abused it. And we've never stood up and said, the Constitution says you're wrong. The president of the Senate is actually the vice president. And she's saying, in this case, or in the past, he's saying, as in when Joe Biden was there, nope, there is no such thing. Filibuster's gone.
right, or even at least make them filibuster. It used to be you had to go up there and talk for. Could Mitch McConnell talk for 8 hours? I don't think so.
I think he'd fall over. Oh, wait, is it
Yeah,
too soon? I don't know.
no, it's never too soon with him. He's responsible for so much of this. But yeah, Obama, to your point, didn't fight back. He sort of, I think, had senioritis and thought Hillary was going to win. And the Merrick Garland thing was inexcusable. Even in the moment, it was like February or March, he's nominated. He allowed that to languish for months. He could have come out and said, and I said this at the time, I didn't even have a platform yet, really, that if you don't vote on this in 60 days, I'm going to consider that an approval, and I'm going to order him to the Supreme Court and put the onus on them. Instead, he just let it happen.
But because they're required by the Constitution, right? Right, the advise and consent, and if they choose not to, then I think you're right. And you say, well, I've gotten your advice and
they're not supposed to do that. They're supposed to vote on things. They're not supposed to to kick the can down the road and not vote. That's completely against the spirit of what's written there, and they know it, and it's disgusting.
Of course it is. It hadn't been done before, and so my whole point is like, if that's what they're going to do, then he should have said, all right, my interpretation and my lawyers. I mean, hell, George W. Bush found lawyers to draw up a defense of waterboarding and torture, which is exactly what we accused the Japanese of for doing to us as torture during World War II. So you can find lawyers to draw up justifications for anything, which should scare all of us, by the way, with what's coming into office.
Yeah.
So as far as I'm concerned, a lawyer should have sat there and said, you have 60 days. You have the right to advise and consent. If you choose to not do that with a vote, we will take that as an acceptance.
As a tacit approval. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That's what he should have done. But the getting back to the present moment, the thing that upsets me the most, I think, about the silence and the kind of like acting as if everything is okay of Biden and Harris and all of the people in the administration, really, and most of Congress, is it makes us all seem like crazy, like we're being gaslit by these people, that everything is just hunky-dory, and either it is hunky-dory and we're all wrong to be worried, or they're just gaslighting us. And why are they gaslighting us? It's so upsetting on so many levels, because, again, you had your rant about Morning Joe, a show that I've never once watched and never will, but they
I'm with
do
you, pal.
the thing.
I've run into it by mistake for a segment, but never watched it from A to B.
They're normalizing, they're trust washing, they're getting everybody used to the idea that this is what's happening. You have somebody on, this Hegseth guy and Kosh and Tulsi. These people are there. I said this on Tony's show too. You might as well have Muppets. Kermit the Frog and Fozzie Bear. It's like, these are not serious picks. And for the media and everybody to sort of be like, oh yeah. Well, no, not well. If everybody in the media just pointed out how ridiculous and how unsafe the picks are, because that's the other thing. Tulsi Gabbard in charge of our national secrets is a big problem. I mean,
and Kash Patel, who will come bust your door down if you say something mean about Trump. How is, again, and that was something I ranted about throughout the election, the failure of mainstream media. And when they, let's call them what they are, corporate media, when they started losing people, unsubscribing from the Washington Post and New York Times, I see people like, oh, that's all we have. And they do some great investigative reporting. You do some great investigative reporting. And you also tell the truth about politics. So do plenty of other people. Let them die, was my response to the New York Times and the Washington Post. They are a failed model that doesn't work in this age, has failed us again and again and again. And something else needs to rise up in its place to give people truthful information, because they are not doing it.
That's the thing that's so complicated, though, Cliff, because it's not, when we say the New York Times, it's not the entire New York Times. There's plenty of people at the New York Times who do really good reporting. It's the people in charge of the New York Times. It's the people who decide what's going to get on the front page, what isn't on the front page. It's most of the editorial people and what they're writing about and what they choose to push and what they choose not to push. Washington Post, same thing. But we're in a situation now where they're owned by very rich people. But like I made this point before too, I don't think on here, but if you look at the Watergate, right? That's supposed to be the greatest journalism thing that's happened in 100 years, right? In order for Watergate to happen, you had to have a reporter with a good which Woodward had. You had to have two guys, working on it and given the time by the editor to work on the story. You had to have an editor who, the direct report editor, to believe in the story and to give them the time and the kick in the butt when they needed, and all this stuff to shape how it was going. And when they got pushback from Nixon and everybody was like, basically fake news, you had Ben Bradley, who was the executive editor at the time, saying, we stand by our reporting. And you had Kay Graham saying, you're going to do whatever you need to do. Whatever you need to do is good by me.
Right.
So you had to have all of those elements in place in order for Watergate to happen. Any one of those things isn't there, it doesn't happen.
So, I kind of feel like it's similar to if you saw, if you saw, or the story of Spotlight, you need Marty Bear in there. In that case, an outsider who was not tied to the archdiocese, who didn't worry. It wasn't like the part of this sort of company being the Catholic Church, who was like, go and find what you find, and we're going to tell the truth. And that's the way that scandal got out. If they had been scared of every person they offended, and I'm not sure everything that happened in the movie happened in real life, obviously, but I'm sure some of them did. The church would send emissaries, or Boston College or other people, hey, we're in the same alumni class. You don't want to talk about that. You don't want to. They try their best to suppress it. And again, I agree with you about the New York Times, except for the culture is broken. I think there are good people in there you could take out of there. And if somebody like let's say, I don't know, Mark Cuban, were to start a newspaper with a similar name, maybe if given the free rein to act in a manner in which real reporters and real editors act, then maybe we would get that. The problem is that, there were good Germans too. And if you're at a newspaper and people are saying, no, you either feel the pressure about what you're supposed to do, both sides cover up and make Trump normal, and you do it, or you see other people literally tell you to do it. And we've heard of those cases leaking out where people are literally told, do not say that, kind of the equivalent of the Morning Joe apology for David Frum, to go back to my thing earlier, or you also have the ones, and we all know who they are, who want book deals, who want to get a deal on MSNBC or CNN, and they're willing to say anything or do anything. They're careerists. So I will agree with you. There are good people. I don't want to say every single person. And when I try my best when I do that, because I don't want to be a demagogue. When I talk about the media, when I talk about anything, to find the good folks and point out there always are some good folks mixed in there. But if your choice right now is the Philadelphia Inquirer, which is owned by a private foundation, the only newspaper to call for Donald Trump to get out of the race after that debate against Biden, not Joe Biden, because he's a serial liar in their words. Well, that's a newspaper. I subscribe to them. What if we subscribe to them, donate money to them, and made them what the New York Times is now? Got to get them the resources. They have Will Bunch, who should win a Pulitzer at some point. He's a friend, and he's an amazing columnist and reporter. And there's plenty of other great work. What about ProPublica? The Cleveland Plain Dealer. We had the editor, Chris Quinn, in Cleveland, who said, when they screamed and yelled at him and said, we are not going to treat Joe Biden. And I don't know who owns them. So he may have been taking a courageous stand. He said, he was the editor. He's like, we're not going to treat Joe Biden. This is when Biden was still running, and Donald Trump as equals. One person wouldn't accept the results of the election and tried to overthrow it. The other one didn't do that. So yes, we'll criticize Joe Biden when it's warranted, but we are going to explain there are differences between these people, vast differences. And so I'm not saying, kill it all, let it all, but there's independent media out there doing a great job. I think people would learn a lot more about politics, and I'm not just saying this because you're here, reading what you write than reading what almost any reporter and New York Times writes. And frankly, if there are some great individuals, good, let them go. Maybe your Substack will get so big you hire them, or the Philadelphia Inquirer will hire them, but the New York Times is an entity at this point to me is like it's almost like it's too big to fail. It should fail because it is again, even with all the other great work they're doing, if they're paving the path as they have for a dictator, and as they did that famous Eric Lichtblau case, where obviously he got from what's his name, McGonigal, the guy at the New York FBI office, we see no connection between Trump and Russia. An area of yours, I'd say, you don't know that much about, Greg, the Russia stuff. And
Yeah.
If that helped, and I'm sure it did,
It absolutely did.
People's fears and elect Trump. Well, I don't care what great writing you're doing about food or even investigative reporting. You've just destroyed our country. You just caused 600,000 more people, as you said, to die. I mean, there is a point we got to pull the plug.
Yeah, no, I know. It's frustrating to me because it's very hard to think about it's just very complicated is all I'm saying. Like,
I know.
I do a lot of stuff, but I rely on the reporting from the newspapers. Everybody does that's in my position for the most part. I'm not out there pounding the pavement, quoting people, interviewing this and that. So that's all.
But everything we know about Clarence Thomas is ProPublica, right? I mean,
that
not everything. But they were the ones breaking those stories. I mean, maybe more nonprofit media, private foundation-owned media, whatever it may be. I'm simply saying, I'm not saying kill all newspapers.
No, I know. But I feel like I just need to make the distinction because I don't want to be out there being like, I have the truth and I know everything, because I don't. I rely on this stuff.
Greg,
I have to be
everything.
honest about who I rely on. I think that's important. But the media is part of the problem because I don't know going into this thing, who is going to be telling us what's what. It's hard to know. And I do feel like there's a shakeup in things going on with, even certain journalists that I admire. Heidi Prisbilla left Politico and starting her own thing. And that's, to me, that's
she was one of the few left at Politico that I had any faith in at all.
Yeah. Right. I mean, but she did very, very good work there. So, but it gets to the point where everything you have to drill down to who the byline is and all this stuff. And it's exhausting. And that's
we're not even talking about zombie publications here. I mean, why has the left not done this? Again, they couldn't cost all that much money. You look at it and you're like, and people still see Newsweek and say, wow, Newsweek, that's an important, because again, when I was growing up, Newsweek was one of the most important periodicals out there. It was like,
sure,
you got your stuff from, now owned by crazy right wingers. Politico, which started as both sides slop for the most part anyhow, with a couple of good reporters, as you pointed out. And there was a point, by the way, where even I guess I was a consultant. They had an area where they had consultants write about various issues. I wrote for Politico at one point. So, that doesn't, by the way, make it good. It probably makes it worse. But point being, I'm not saying everything about it was terrible, but it was always a both sides factory to a certain degree. That was about advertising dollars and the rest. And then it gets taken over by some right-wing nutty German who prayed for, and right-wing, when I put right-wing and German together, I always get a little uncomfortable, by the way, who prayed for Donald Trump to win. Most people don't know that. The Hill, another place I wrote some columns for back in the day, at one point was owned, I don't remember who, but it was at least somewhat objective media, taken over by I don't even know who it is, but a right-wing entity. And now anybody they put on there from the left is from the far left, so that they're criticizing whoever the Democratic candidate is as much as the Republican is, right?
Right.
And so it's like, why we can't do any of that, seemingly, I do not understand. But you do it. That's why you do have to look at the byline and everything else, because a lot of these places have tricked people by buying, brands and not even remotely, living up to what those brands were before, and they're doing it that way too.
I mean, ultimately, I think the market maybe will win out here because, historically, newspapers used to be very biased and all of them had a very overt political opinion. I'm talking about the turn of the last century, around the time of the Spanish-American War, which started because William Randolph Hearst wanted a war with Spain, and sent somebody to Havana and was like, you give me the stories, I'll give you the war.
Good old yellow journal. Well, I mean, that's...
So, but coming out of that period, the paper that won the day was the New York Times. And the New York Times won the day because it was objective and it was trying to just report what was happening without bias. And it's ironic that the New York Times now, in the same way it's ironic that the party of Lincoln is now the party of Orange Grove, Cleveland.
Davis. I mean,
it boggles the mind, but everything boggles the mind these days.
Well, it does. Remember the Maine. Sorry, I had to say that. I mean, it does though. You do sit there also, and again, I'm sure I can't sit here. Went up to the PhD level in history and was a schmuck and never wrote my dissertation. Actually, I had a son is what happened. My first of my two sons, and then thought I should probably make some money, and I was being offered that as a consultant, so I didn't write my dissertation. But point is, a lot of that history, especially 20th century American history, the rise of conservatism was what I actually concentrated on. But I looked a lot back at the 1930s, the New Deal right, and and even further back. And if you start looking at things, you will. This has gone viral at least a couple times around, the various Twitter blue sky, threatosphere, whatever you're on, which is the New York Times in the 1920s saying, Mr. Hitler seems to have learned his lesson after spending time in prison, seems reformed, to enjoy painting again. And, that was what we would call a bad take. It's not the
However,
yeah.
In their defense, and in the defense of, you see Neville Chamberlain's name thrown around too. They didn't have late 30s, early 40s Germany to look back on as a template for this stuff. They were kind of, it was unprecedented what was happening. We don't have that excuse. It's very simple to see what's happening here.
We've seen many people break things. The only thing that's unprecedented, I would say, about this time around is the capabilities for the mass information warfare didn't exist in the same way, and they still found ways to do it. I mean, everybody should just, again, I think, I'm not saying it's exact history, but I think it's worth watching, and it's also an amazing show, The Americans, to kind of even see what they were doing in the 80s and how they were using their diplomatic posts, how they were planting journalists at newspapers. They still found ways back then. For example, what I brought up during, again, well, it's still going on, the conflict, there's many conflicts in the Middle East, I guess now, but what was going on with Israel and Hamas, which is anti-Semitism, which suddenly was popping up everywhere, was a key tenet of what the KGB did in the 60s and 70s, because they wanted to split up the whatever you want to call it, coalition for democracy and freedom. And we ended up siding with Israel, and the Russians sided with Egypt and some of the others. And so one of the ways they could undermine that alliance, the folks of the country where the protocols of the elders of Zion were written, was to push all of this sort of anti-Semitic garbage. And I saw a lot of that stuff happen again among, again, there are people that just did not want innocent people to die in Gaza. I get it. I was one of them. There are people that realize Bibi Netanyahu is a thug and a war criminal. I'm also one of those. So to be very clear, but then there are people who realize there are larger geopolitical forces at work there. And you've now seen them with Assad too, the alliance between Russia, Iran, and Hamas, Hezbollah, who purposely, I still think part of that was a Putin pushed operation, to draw Israel out, because they wanted as much of a distraction in other parts of the world so they could do what they could do in Ukraine. I've pointed out that I worked for a group called Birthright Armenia numerous times, and they're the same thing. The kleptocrat Aliyev goes and meets with Putin in Moscow, and the next day, he gets the okay, and the next day his forces are attacking this Armenian ethnic enclave surrounded by Azerbaijan that was independent and pushing for ethnic cleansing. Like
Nagorno-Karabakh,
Russia was okaying all of this stuff.
Yeah. It's going into Bibi though. Bibi was just a simple grifting criminal the first time he was there. He only became a horrible war criminal when he was allowed back. So
correct.
Yeah.
He's covered all his bases like Trump.
That's my point, is that, the one thing that Trump didn't do when he was around the first time is get us into any crazy wars. And I don't know, maybe he's got that on his bucket list. It's not, there's a lot of people in that camp that, think the rapture's coming and stuff like that. I don't want anybody that believes fervently in the imminent end times to be anywhere near our nuclear arsenal. That's just me.
Right.
Well, luckily, disqualifying.
Luckily, when you talk about folks who believe in the rapture and believe that Jews need to all be in Israel for that to happen, luckily we're not sending over an ambassador to Israel, for example, who believes in that. And has been a con man his whole life. Just another earlier version of Donald Trump, Mike Huckabee, who sleazy, fake Baptist preacher who at the time he was the governor of Arkansas, you should look up this article. It's literally stole everything not nailed down. Every gift that was given to the the governor's mansion, they took with them. Sued a guy to try to make the public beach private that his house was on in Florida. I mean, it's like one thing after another with him. He's my favorite was when the Newsmax used to be more of an email list than what people know it for now. The station it is, when people would buy their list and send out buy chunks of the Newsmax list so they could send out their fake product. And in his case, it was Mike Huckabee. It was a biblical cure for cancer. And that will go back to, again, he ran as president after that. And the media treated him like he was a reasonable figure. And there's just nothing, it seems, that can disqualify you from being treated, as long as you fit into the partisan lens. You're a Republican or you're a Democrat, then as long as you fit into that simple rubric, they're going to treat you like you're normal. It does not matter what you have done, honestly. Like, I feel like.
No, I think only if you're a Republican, actually.
Well, it's a good point.
Howard Dean lost his temper for 15 seconds once.
Good point.
Couldn't
I wrote speeches for him, so they kind of screwed me on that one.
Yeah. I liked him.
We should try this, I think, though. Like, if we were to bring back, let's say, the ghost of Pinochet or Franco or, on the Republican side, Quisling, would they be cool with that? Into the bones of Quisling, as long as that was the Republican nominee running? I think they would. I think they would too. I mean,
back to your Huckabee point, the only good thing I have to say is that Ambassador to Israel, at least he's not in the United States. He'll be out of the country. I'm all for sending these horrible people away, as far away from me as possible.
That's true. Where can we send Newt? I don't think he's put him on any list yet. Can we send him somewhere?
I don't know. Is he still alive? I guess he is. I don't know. These people are getting up.
He's got a reserve of food, from what I can see, and as long as there's a fourth or fifth wife that's still around for a potential betrothal, if that's a word.
Maybe the drones are coming. The drones are coming to get all these people. I don't know what's happening.
They're eating the pets, Greg.
They are.
It sounded like that when you said dogs. That. Which, by the way, again, right-wing disinformation. We couldn't get out how good the economy was. If you saw the jobs report the other day, yet again, 227,000 or whatever it was jobs created. They revised the previous report up. This amazing economy we're handing over to this blubbering idiot who took his family money and blew it in casinos. And as I like to point out to people, he blew it in all sorts of ways. But a casino, folks, is a place where you walk in and you literally hand them your money for nothing but a bunch of chips that you're expected and will almost definitively lose. And and what they do is they ply you full of drinks. They have no windows and no clocks, so you're disoriented and figure it could be any time and stay there. And they pump oxygen in the room to keep you awake. And literally, that's the advantages they have. That the house does always win, but somehow this jackwad, I think I can say that. Maybe I demonetized myself. Found a way. See, what's good. What will be good about this in the future, as I talked to you offline about, Greg, is my creative cursing will get better and better because I'm going to have to find the ways to say the things I want to say that will fool the algorithm that it doesn't know these words. So,
there you go.
So he found a way to do that, and so he's going to come in. And again, you don't have to really have deeply studied economics, everybody, but I'm going to give you some basic premises. You have a working force. Let's call them immigrants. They're thrown out of the country because that working force is willing to accept less money because of how they're here. Your labor costs are lower. They're thrown out. Wow, I need to hire new people. And we're in basically a full employment economy. Wow, they can make demands. I'm going to have to pay them twice as much. I wonder who that cost gets passed on to. I think it's probably going to be the CEOs that will lower their own pay to cover that. That's what I'm thinking is the bonus at the end of the year. And then you're like, wait, that's not enough. I've got a great idea. We should go ahead and put tariffs on them. So, because what will happen is when they put the tariffs on our product, remember, China pays for it, right? China pays for it. So when you put the tariffs, kind of like Mexico on the wall, when you put the tariffs on their products, when it costs our companies more money to sell those products, they're not going to say pass that on to us too. So now the labor costs are going to be passed on to us and the tariff costs. Yeah, and you voted because you thought eggs cost too much. I can't wait to see when eggs cost $237 for a dozen, how you're feeling out there.
It's really
mom and dad MAGA.
Yeah, no, it boggles the mind, and I think maybe that's something else though. And I got to go in a minute, but I think that's something else that I think is a hopeful thing is that people voted for him, but not everybody likes him. I think people voted for change, even though they should have known better. I don't think anything that he does is going to be terribly popular, and it's a big country. There's a lot of people in this country. Most of them are not going to like what's going to happen. I think an overwhelming majority are going to like it. So
no, I mean, we have to always remember if they finish the final count. I know it gotten down to 1.5%. I think it was on its way to 1.4%. It may have hit that as a popular vote victory. As I like to point out to people, what I hate is another thing the media never covers and Democrats never message. These things go hand in hand. If you have secretaries of state who are Republicans after the Supreme Court with the Shelby case killed our protections in the Voting Rights Act, if you have secretaries of state that are Republican in Texas, Florida, Georgia, Ohio, 4 of the 12 biggest states in the country, certainly, and 2 of them are like 2 of the 3 biggest states in the country. I want to estimate with the manner in which our Secretary of State said if you didn't vote 2 elections in a row, he didn't trust that you were a voter and was going to purge your vote, that overall there's at least 250,000, and I'm being so conservative in the old sense of the word. My guess is it's closer to 1 million and a half voters who they literally just threw off the rolls, and who knows, 10-20% of them at best Republicans. Let's give them let's give them the high end of it and say 25% of them are Republicans. Okay. And these are the ways that they dilute that vote. So yes, when you win by that little, when some of it's because people don't turn out because of gerrymandering and other factors, when it's because you suppress people's votes, when it's all of these things going on, it's pretty clear that at best you have half the country, and you probably have somewhat less than that by a deep.
And you're going to have a lot less once the eggs cost, what you said they cost, however much they're going to be. So, because everything you said is right. It's just he's going to be. I don't even know, man. I don't even know what to say.
Do you have have you set up an underground railroad passage in case you need to run yet, or no?
I'm not going to say, Cliff. I've been advised by my Sherpa that that I shouldn't say. No, I'm just kidding. No, I haven't. I think everybody has thought about it, But
I will say, I'm not saying what, and I won't ever say, but we've got some secondary plans. And again, it's not if just he's horrible. That's expected. Right. It's if his horribleness is for some reason Stephen Miller is bored, hanging upside down, sleeping late at night, and his eyes somehow open, and accidentally they end up on a YouTube channel where I say something bad, and so even though I'm on the D list, they somehow decide that I'm worthy of going after, and I find out about it. Well, then, I want to have a plan to at least kids, man. I care, my kids are but I mean, this is, by the way, where I live in Cincinnati. You cross between northern Kentucky and here. This is the home of one of the main parts of the Underground Railroad, where they had caves underneath. My wife went to school at Miami of Ohio, and they have still caves underneath some of the homes there, because that's how folks would, tunnels for the Underground Railroad. It's really kind of fascinating. They have a museum here too. If anybody is ever in the Queen City and feels like seeing something fun. But I'm going to let Greg go, except for, because you already see it on well longer than you said. 20 minutes. You think you were going to do that. Seriously, where can everybody find you? Because again, I just need, before you say this, guys, I cannot tell you how much smarter you will get if you read what Greg writes. Literally one of the best, most informed writers I have ever come across. And again, you've seen me on this show. I have a lot of plaudits and things I offer my guests, but I don't just say that about anybody.
I appreciate it, Cliff. Thank you.
It's all true.
I appreciate it. I try to make it. I try to throw in jokes.
Because
I have
again,
jokes.
You're writing about important topics about that other people don't know as much about. But you also, I'm sorry, I can't help it. I'm a writer, and the flair of good writing, of like flowing, interesting, funny, like you're a writer in the sense of that, true
am.
sense of that word.
Thank
and
you.
It's awesome.
So my Substack it's called Prevail, but it's just gregolear.substack.com or just gregolear.com. I have a podcast, which is called Prevail. And as you said, I'm on the show called The 5-8, which is a YouTube channel that I do with my friend Stephanie Koff every Friday night. And I have books too. If you want to read like my novels, that'd be good. I used to do that once upon a time.
Give us at least a name or two of your novels.
I have one called Father Mucker. That's about a day in the life of a stay-at-home dad. And
you definitely just got me demonetized because they're going to hear that a different. I'm just kidding.
No, it's fine.
I'm
and I
kidding.
have one called Totally Killer, and the most recent one is called Empress, which is a 700-page novel about the Byzantine Empire. So
So that one's more serious. Are the other ones like comedic at all? Or
yeah, they're funny. They're funny. They're similar to my style.
Then
my style is my style.
That's all I need to hear, because guess what? I have some gifts to get people still.
All
So
right. Thank you. Thank you.
No, I mean, seriously, who like reading interesting novels. And actually, my younger son, who is 15, is, decided in some crazy reason to take Latin, which led him to embrace the part of our family. We're part Sicilian. So we went back to Italy and saw, various parts of Sicily, even some of the old family this past summer on my wife's side, not my side. And then he got really into, because after the Romans fell, the Byzantine Empire was really the Roman Empire, and he got into that. So that might be something for him. So
it's a good book, if I do say so myself. So
you should say so.
Okay. Anyway, thank you, Cliff, for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and keep on keeping on, man. We're gonna have to keep on keeping on. Lord knows.
I think that's the thing. As long as my microphone works tomorrow, I'll be holding, and that's a 50-50 proposition. Finally, I think I got the lighting right, and that's worked out well. But
good.
I'm not a smart man, but I do know what love is, Greg.
All right. Take care.
Seriously, thank you so much, Greg Olear, everybody. I've already said everything I can say. He is fantastic. He is the real deal. He is awesome. So what are we talking about here? I'm frustrated at risk grains at tuning into. That looked interesting to me. Was that someone insulting us? I can't seem to move up. What do we have here? Seeing 200 geniuses and 0 solutions from all of them combined. You should be too. So are you saying we don't have any solutions? Actually, Greg had a lot of solutions in his Substack. We can't help it if the people we elected don't embrace those solutions, but they're there. I mean, there are literally ways to stop Trump from being inaugurated that are sitting right there in the Constitution. There are literally ways to strip Republicans of majority leader power, because that doesn't exist right there in the Constitution. These are exactly things that Republicans would do, but we won't. Maybe we all need to have a public strike. Maybe we all need to get outside their offices and scream and yell. Maybe we need to reach out to the younger next generation, which is funny because some of that is Gen X, which is what I am, but 50-somethings and younger who aren't in still what I call all the time the Reagan crouch, thinking the right is all powerful and has this charismatic figure and is popular, instead of the fact that they barely won this election. They did it full of disinformation and lies is the only reason they won, and suppressing votes. And every one of their positions is incredibly unpopular. So people like Eric Swalwell and Jasmine Crockett and Martin Frost and, Stacey Plaskett and Gretchen Whitmer and Gavin Newsom and Ted Lieu and Dan Goldman, they all get that. They've been great. On the Senate side, one's willing to speak up, Brian Schatz and John Fetterman and Tammy Duckworth. But we still, as I wanted Greg to use his term, Schumering, which is what he's used before, we still have that. And that's not helping. The Senate is still controlled by these institutionalists who believe that institutions are working and are trying to protect them. And I've had this conversation with so many people the last couple of days, with Bob Seska, with Greg, and with others. If you're protecting institutions that stink, you're failing. If you're protecting institutions that harm us, you're failing. Sometimes institutions need to die. And sometimes traditions need to die, and sometimes precedents need to die, and sometimes norms that never really existed need to die. And if we were willing to do things that are literally right there in front of us, we could stop this right now. There are ways to solve this. Oh, he's a gun in his profile? Of course. I didn't even look at it. Well, thank Risk Rates. I should have guessed when you said leftists. What solutions do you have? I think if you walk around with your gun and you feel really good because you strap it in tightly, like when you juggle your guys downstairs, if your strap on there makes you feel better about yourself, I think that's a great solution. So can you solve problems for us, you and your gun, your personal friend who you need to go outdoors with every day? Yeah, okay. Kick him off, please. All right, let's see. Who else can I abuse? Raskin Crockett. I think somebody had that. That would be terrific. That is a great combination too. Because Raskin, I don't know if I mentioned him before. He's probably, it's funny, I think he's 60. He's still Gen X, the beginning of Gen X, and he's on the older end of the ones who do not do the Reagan crouch anymore. He fights back. He hits hard. I think I'm making a video about something he said the other day when I'm done with this, because he kicked some Republican butt. What are we talking about? Ray? Has Ray resigned? Is that a thing? He announced he would resign early? Because I'm not following the news right now. I'm doing this. I did see some Ray talk earlier in there, but I couldn't really pay attention because I was either ranting or talking to Greg. Well, this is self-evident. I mean, if you look at who's, Dark Shadu, I'll pronounce it correctly one of these days. If you look at who was just the nominees, I mean, I've talked about this often. What MAGA is, it's flypaper for the worst people in society. You really can do a long alliteration with the letter C. Cruel, corrupt, callow, classless. There's more. Choleric, caloric. They're terrible people. And there are people that voted for Republicans who I will say were fooled and were whatever and aren't necessarily terrible people. But core MAGA people, those that self-identify and dance around to things like, killing in the name of, like a couple of those goofballs with Trump flags on, not knowing that, what they were talking about in that video was fighting back against people like them, I find amusing. What else we got, guys? Ray made 9 meals. We're talking a lot about Ray, which makes me think that I'm missing something. And yeah, 60-year-olds. That's right, Cynthia. They're at the top. I am 52, and I am literally right in the middle, almost as close as you can get in the middle of Gen X, because it's 65 to born between 65 and 80. So if you're 60-year-old, that means you are an early Xer on the early end. That's where, I mean, Kamala technically, I think, was a few months older than being an Xer. I think she may have technically been a boomer, but she was an Xer. She really was the beginning of X. What else? Well, let me thank everybody and also encourage folks and say, look, I was going through some of the stuff today. I asked you yesterday what you wanted me to do more of. I'm going to have to get viewership up, even though we've got a couple thousand people. Some of these live streams, I don't know what YouTube is doing. They've demonetized some of them, which is not good. Some of my rebroadcasts, by the way, I've noticed, like, they don't do well at 9 o'clock at night, folks. So for those of you who don't catch the first one, and we're going to try 5 o'clock tonight, which I think is a better time for the first rebroadcast. That doesn't seem to do great, but anything you can do, I shared, we're coming up, by the way, with the ideas for the Christmas tree ornaments, which I will share with you. I shared with you the other day, the fourth wall. Do I still have it open here somewhere? Do you have it, Jim? Let me first thank people. Holly Fafo. Anybody with Fafo is great. Hey, Cliff, was good to see you and Tony Michaels today. Well, Holly, you're fantastic. You have Fafo in your name. I know that must be your real name because you're cool. And seriously, I really appreciate it. Appreciate the support. We have a $10 super chat here from ET, phone home. Not knowing tech does not make you dumb, just uninformed. Texas Paul today was talking about not falling for McDonald's outrage distractions. Can you talk some about that? Well, let me say, first of all, that I like to make fun of myself. It's being self-deprecating. I don't really think I'm a moron. I do think I seem to get unlucky with technology, but if I can't call myself a moron, then who can, right? It's fun. If you don't take yourself too seriously, it's kind of hard for people to insult you. So that's why usually when the trolls come around, I have fun and laugh at them because I think they think they're hurting me, but I can call myself something worse than any of them can come up with. So I really don't think I'm dumb. I think, I think I'm a pretty smart guy. I think I've got some pretty cool accomplishments under my belt. I think there are things I could have done better in life, but I always dreamt of doing, something on presidential races. I worked on 3 of them. I, wrote, as I said, op-ed speeches for one, came pretty close and I was the DNC chair and Harry Dean. And I wrote ads for Joe Biden when he won in 2020. And I've done a lot of other stuff in between. The brand that started the PR program for Everytown for gun safety online. And when it started winning, beat the NRA on the House Senate floor for the first time in 5 years in 2009. And no, I'm not just trying to sit here and brag about everything. Because again, if I had a problem with like one of the tires of my car, I'd be a moron. I'd need somebody to help me. So I just have fun with it. I'm good at some things, bad at some things, like everybody else. But your other question, the not falling for the McDonald's outrage distractions. If you're still here, ET, can you tell me what you mean exactly by that? Are we talking about the dude being caught in McDonald's? That's the only thing I can think of, the McDonald's reference lately. Luigi, who went to my university, by the way. That is something I'm upset about. Luigi, what's his last name again? Frank Luntz, Elon Musk, Donald Trump Jr., Eric Trump, Ivanka Trump. Oh, guys, do you know what it's like to have attended a college you were proud of and then all of those people went there? I know I'm missing some too. There's some other horrible people. Oh, one of my least favorite reporters at the Washington Post I can't stand, Ashley Parker. Cenk Uygur, who's gone crazy left and now spends all his time attacking Democrats because that's going to really help. MAGA's not his enemy, he says. All Penn grads. John Legend and Elizabeth Banks, too. Don't forget those two. I'm sure there are others I'll think about. Tell me when you can what you meant by the McDonald's distractions, like the fact that he brought all of the stuff to McDonald's. People are making up conspiracies. It does seem like some weird Lee Harvey Oswald kind of thing where like, oh, he went and shot a cop and then ran and sat down in a movie theater. Not necessarily behavior you would show if you were trying to not be caught for killing a president, but I used to be a JFK like assassination buff and read all the books and all the conspiracies. I have my own views. I don't know what exactly happened. What I do know is I don't believe Oswald possibly could have acted alone. And the House Select Committee agreed with me because they heard more than 3, 4 shots. There were 6 shots or something. He couldn't have shot that many. But that's for a different time. I don't know what the McDonald's thing is. So tell me if I'm right on the right track, the dude being caught at McDonald's. Great rant, Cliff, by White Noise. Thank you. You're awesome. You were the person who was very kind to see me at, nice at Tony's place. And then, supportive here when I had my issues. So thank you. WW, I think I mentioned before, member for a month. Thank you. Fantastic. Talking to my admin, as I've told you guys, we're going to revamp that. Basically, what's going to happen is instead of starting off my days at as I used to, and I think is stupid, at Blue Sky, which I'm not saying is a bad place, but doesn't pay me to be there. And it doesn't mean that I'm giving the people that are paying me their hard-earned money what they deserve. We're going to start off with posts at Patreon and YouTube members, which are the same thing, 2 different places. So there will be my initial thoughts and posts are going to start going there every day. I think this may start next week. We're going to start there with a video for the people who pay, who pay the amounts. We're going to change that around a little bit every day, like a short on what I think about things in general every day. And then we're going to add to that for people that are who have the funds willing to invest a little more and help me do this. Because again, they've been demonetizing me, and it's really hard to sit here for 2 hours a day and then look and see that you made like $2.04. Hasn't happened every time, but it's happened a bunch of times. And, I have to make a living and such. L.A. Thorn the Martian, thank you for your $10 super chat. I find it ironic how the left neglects to acknowledge the Marxist religious roots of the left. Pete Buttigieg's dad translated Italian Marxist Gramsci's prison writings into English. Okay. Not sure what to do with that. I thought Gramsci, by the way, had some important points to make too. It doesn't make me a Marxist. He said one of the smartest things I ever think that's ever been said about politics, actually, which is he who controls the culture controls the politics. The right understood that. That's why they funded the Heritage Foundation and AEI and Cato and Fox News and Sinclair and Salem Radio and local talk radio, iHeartRadio now throughout the country, and Breitbart. And, I could go on forever. That's controlling the culture. And that's controlling the politics. And that's Gramsci. But Pete Buttigieg speaks like 14 languages, so that his dad translated an Italian Marxist into English doesn't make him a Marxist. I've read Marx. I'm not a Marxist. I've read plenty of stuff about Russians, the Soviet Union during its time, even some of the utterances, I should say, of Joseph Stalin, who I think is one of the great mass murderers of the history of the world. And however he passed away, I think it was simply old age should have gone in a much worse way. I don't understand that point fully. Now I have 9 starred things here. Let's get to them. Fred Bear, I'd rather be pissed off than pissed on. That may be the winner. Yes. And, look, I'm going to make jokes, as I said before, gallows humor. I can't help it. And really just humor. It's who I am. But while I'm making those jokes, I will remain pissed off because there will always be people to be pissed off at. You have to take a break from being pissed off here and there. So first I was pissed at technology, and then I was pissed at Joe and Mika. And then I was pissed when I was talking with Greg about the fact that Democrats will not use things at their disposal because it would seem wrong and it doesn't fit precedent and break norms. But you know what? I'm still a pretty happy guy. So yeah, I agree, Fred. That is that may be my thesis for life. MJ, thank you. That deserves I can't say it, something, effing, gold medal. Get mad, stay mad. We need it. Screw hopium and copium ain't helping. I assume you may have been talking about my rant, and if you were, thank you. Siri, no one's talking to you, even though I respect and love you. So thank you, because that rant was important to me. I'm so tired of and I'm tired. I really, there are a lot of years there where Joe Scarborough, talk about pissed me off just because people bought into his, I've changed, even though it was so obvious that it was because Trump insulted him. He didn't change. Same guy. Always the same guy. Same bully, same bravado, same garbage, same lies. He just was doing it to attack Trump. And, people were happier about it then, but he never changed who he was. And, well, he proved it, didn't he? E.T., Donald Trump, McDonald's. Okay. And you also gave me a $5 super chat, so thank you. I still don't know. What is Donald Trump saying? That he eats a lot of McDonald's? That I think if you were to look at his bloodstream, his cholesterol level is Big Mac. I'm not sure. What did Donald Trump do? Okay, I'm going to go to have I covered? No, I don't know if I have. And, Holly Fafo, we got you before, new member. You're awesome. Now I'm back to the regular comments here. Of course, somebody is calling me and I can't answer. Yay. What else? What else do we got, guys? Again, I'm going to encourage you and I'm going to promise you, because the first thing I'm going to concentrate the most out of all of this. These will be high on the list. I think these live streams will be tied probably first or second after what I'm going to do for the folks that are kind enough to join Patreon and are kind enough to join the YouTube members. I'm going to absolutely, and let me know because it doesn't show here if you join Patreon, I guess, but I'm absolutely going to start concentrating on lessening my other social media and putting more of my thoughts there constantly every day. I'm also going to be putting up some for you guys at the community page. I realize sometimes we get 1,000 commenters there, and I'm much better served answering those than on a social media site where, it's not a crowd that's there to ask me specific questions and has supported me by becoming members. So you're going to see how things are going to change, and how that's going to be sort of the center of my universe will be Patreon, YouTube members, and then also this YouTube channel, these streams, and creating some 5-minute videos and shorts, all of that stuff together. And then everything on the community post. I'm going to start trying to post videos by myself. Obviously, I put those up there, but by other folks who are friends, who are doing great work and have great channels. I'm sorry, Sheldon, I didn't mean to take you off of there. Every hour, essentially. Some of it will just be funny memes and interesting stuff you can comment on. Some of it will just be my thoughts, because I've shared that on Blue Sky and Threads before that and Twitter before that. And now I'm just going to share it on the community post. And you know what, guys? I've told you there are other things I like. So a lot of it will be political, but there's new bands that just announced they're touring. System of a Down, heavy metal band. I worked with Serge Tankian, the lead singer, who is a friend, on trying to fight what was going on with the Azerbaijanis attacking Armenians earlier. He agreed to come on this show. He has a tour starting soon, so we're going to have to figure that out. Maybe we'll promote his tour. Fantastic guy, another guy who just is the best. And, that's going to be part of sort of the plan to make all of these better, more fun. I mean, hopefully they already are a lot of fun. But, and Holly too. Wow, you guys are being awesome. Holly, you have gifted a membership. Why is it not showing up here? Sometimes it takes a little while to catch up. There we go. Thank you for that. So just so you should know, and I'm going to start putting more on the community page, just kind of, and tell me, guys, your thoughts on that, whatever. But I want you to know also, like, when I plan to release things, so you'll know when videos are coming out. Just Charco. Okay, Charco, you're awesome. Thank you. $9.99 super chat, I believe. I really appreciate it. I want you to kind of know the schedule, right? We're going to have these 3 super chats. We'll go various lengths, but we're also not super chats, these 3 live streams, but also when I'll generally be releasing like the 5-minute videos. 3 of those will come from, or 5 to 10 from the rants at the beginning of these shows, but I'll do some others on my own time. When you can expect to see shorts, probably, go back to I'll get that one to the members in the morning, but then I'll get another more general one that won't have a specific information to everybody, something like that. We'll figure it out. And then we have some at night, good content we often put up that is not actually stuff that I do, but that other people allow you to share. So, no copyright issues or anything, and want you to share. That's good stuff that I think everybody benefits from seeing. What else we had? Please like and subscribe. Exactly, Cynthia. And that's the other thing, guys. I've been telling you like my plans, and hopefully you like them, and you'll see them up at on the community page too. But liking and subscribing. I don't know where we are right now, but if you guys right now, if everybody in here who's not subscribed would go and click for a second, youtube.com at cliffs_edge. We are under 1,000 away from 20,000. Can you believe that? I'm going to go look where we are. Let's see. Come on. YouTube Studio. Give me all the answers in the world. 99,085, guys. We're 915 subscribers away from that magic number. It'll be better for all of us too, because YouTube then, I think, tries to help with some of these things I'm talking about that are a challenge. Look what I found too. I'm coming back. If you want to go get remember the MTG equals B6 shirt, as in what Jasmine Crockett, badly built, blonde, butch. Yeah, it's a lot of stuff. Bleach blonde, bad built body. Bleach blonde, badly built. I feel like I'm missing a B in there. In any case, we have a funny t-shirt with it on there. You guys should all go there. So here's the YouTube, because Jim's awesome. Please go there and subscribe. Before I tell you to start showing you the merch part of the operation, I will ask you to please go and subscribe if you're not subscribed. We're at 99,085. I got to believe that there's a few people in here that aren't subscribed. Maybe we can get ourselves over 99,100 and get under the 900 number. Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be fantastic? Wouldn't you feel like you were just the most amazing people for helping me do that? Oh, 99,090. See, look at that. 5 people who are not subscribed are now subscribed. I also ask you again, I'm going to put a schedule together, and it will never be 100% because that's just not the way I am. I'm not like a rigid schedule guy, but I want to give you an idea of how many 5-minute videos you'll get each week. It'll be an estimate. I have 1 or 2 contributors that offer some here and there. How many shorts you may get in a day. I'm going to try to put some of that together for you, so and put that on the community wall. But some of that will change based on some of these things that are going on. But I do want everybody to know what they're getting, because that will be cool. And 5 more of you joined. Let's go. Let's hit that refresh button again. 91,091. Somebody else join. We're only 9 away from getting within 900. I think you guys can do it. I think you can do it. Free Wi-Fi, chipmunk milk. I don't know what that means, but awesome. Looking through. What are you saying, chipmunk milk? You got some smart stuff to say. Okay, I've found quite often is what I should have said there. Okay, possible they had 2 backpacks, but if you were the most wanted American in the country, why would you carry your full manifesto and silencer out to eat at McDonald's? Well, again, yeah, I'm sort of. That's the question I was sort of asking. Manifesto, silencer. There was something else too. Didn't he have something else too? Like he literally had everything in there that he had used. Now, he may have just kept it all in his backpack and not packed it for that specific trip to McDonald's. I don't know, but it's still something about all that. Don't know. I mean, the story too is a horrible one. What I've read so far is that he was in massive pain and had a spinal condition. It was worsened by surfing, and it led him to a guy from a prominent, wealthy family in Maryland who'd gone to an Ivy League university and seemed to be on his way, and people liked him. And he had pretty cut abs, if we're going to be honest. He was in such pain all the time. Pain can do things to people, and seems that he came then to start looking at the healthcare system, and there's anything that can't be denied. Like what was hard to understand in his, whatever you want to call it, I mean, manifesto, I start thinking of something like what was written by the Unabomber. That was a lot longer, but what he wrote there, he talked about obviously our system. So he's going more meta, bigger on it. Like the smaller part of it was there may have just been nothing that could have been done for his pain. I don't know the answer to that right now, right? We don't all have we don't need because it didn't look like the health insurance company had turned him down and his family had money. It just looked like it did not ease his pain. But the bigger question he got to in there that he was right about is pointing out that how our system is set up. I was once in Sicily with my mother-in-law and my wife, and I told you family there. So I've been there a few times. And my mother-in-law fell down some steps, hurt her ankle. We went to a hospital. Didn't ask for insurance. They helped her right away, fixed her up. And afterwards, there was a debate between the doctors of whether they should charge her anything. And they ended up charging her nothing because it's your mindset. The mindset there is we're here to heal you. And yeah, that costs money. And yeah, we should make a living. So we have to charge you stuff. And we have, but the mindset is that for insurance is that people's health comes first, not CEOs making $10 million. And again, I don't know all the details, and I still don't think we should be gunning down people in the middle of the street. Folks, you open that can of worms, you get to a bad place because there's a lot of guns out there, and there's a lot of people who think they're righteous in their cause. So that's not, I don't think that's how you handle these things. And I'm not going to argue in favor of killing somebody. But I'm simply saying what he wrote in there about our healthcare system is exactly right. And I do feel sorry for the guy's family. Again, I understand it. He probably turned down a lot of claims, and a lot of people were hurt, and he may even be an awful person for that. If if he was involved in that. In fact, I assume he's involved. He became CEO, so he probably is an awful person, or probably was an awful person. But shooting people in the streets again, that's what the right does. If we get to that point where we're assassinating leaders who are corporate leaders, whatever, well, they want to assassinate people on the left who support all sorts of good causes. I don't think we want to go down that road. Cliff, do you know how to set up a survey on YouTube? If you set up one, ask people if they liked the live stream, it will help get your likes and subscribes up. Ollie, you are awesome. You know what? I do know how to do that. And I just hadn't thought of doing it because I hadn't thought of doing it. Survey on live stream. See, I'm writing it down. And I'm also going to do a survey on the other things we're talking about, 5-minute videos, shorter videos. I want to make sure everybody's getting their time's worth and sort of knows when to check in. I mean, again, like any other, I'm never going to be the type like this will happen every second and can guarantee you. But what I can do is try to say you'll get at least around these times of the day check in. For example, like Daily Kos and Crooks and Liars, if you know those guys put up some of my 5-minute videos, I like them. So 4 days a week when they have the pundit roundup there, they ask me for a video. I mean, it's what is it, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. So those days you may have noticed we have a video go up at 7 in the morning. Not the best time to have a video go up, and I wouldn't do it otherwise, except if it means Daily Kos is going to post it and help promote it. And Crooks and Liars is then the video has a chance of going bigger. It helps the channel and all that, and you can still watch it whenever you want. So those would be 4 days that I think we'll have a 5-minute video at 7 a.m. But that's not going to be the way it's going to be every day. So that kind of stuff. Yeah, I see that, Karen, and there's no justification for that as far as I'm concerned, especially at a healthcare company. I mean, there are companies that are about providing products we like games, right? If you're a gamer company, if you're a whatever, I suppose in that case, you pay your CEO whatever you want. If people are willing to pay it, I still think it's gross, by the way, and I don't think CEOs shouldn't make that much. And if you heard what my tax plan is, and you've probably heard my rant the other day on billionaires and on oligarchs and on monopolies, I think we need to take them all on. I think we need to go back to Eisenhower level taxes on billionaires, which was 91%, by the way, during World War II. If you think I'm being shabby about what I think I'm not saying that I would do that early, like at 10 million even or whatever. But I certainly think if you're a billionaire, anything where you get above $1 billion, I would tax at a heavy rate. I like what AOC had to say about any money you make in a year above 10 million gets taxed to 70% rate. I think that would be a start. I think it should be higher than that eventually, but I think that is a start. And she proposed that in the past. And Elizabeth Warren proposed a wealth tax of, I believe, above $50 million. You start paying a 2% tax, I want to say, and all your wealth above that. That would be a good start too. And breaking up every damn monopoly you can find, trust busting like your Teddy Roosevelt, media and healthcare and pharmaceuticals and defense and all these industries, telecommunication, take them apart. All they do is abuse their customers, abuse their workers, abuse their environment, abuse their communities, abuse common sense and decency by taking the perks and the money that the corporate guys take. Like monopolies have no incentive to do anything better because you're stuck with them. I will tell you, I have an email business fundraising for Democrats. And I've even gone through that on the left. If you think the left is different, like a couple of those companies, that will store us and help you send out your emails, gobble each other up. So there's like 2 or 3 choices now. They're almost a monopoly. And this is a lefty business. Lefty Gramps, who I know is in Ohio in here. How can anyone live on 10 million, less than 10 million a year? Very well. I make a lot less than that. I'm doing okay. My kids will still get to go to college. I think we're almost done. So There should be zero billionaires. Yeah, I agree with that in principle, Mark. I also am pragmatic about how we get there. And I think saying that I think above $1 billion should be taxed at a 90% rate is pretty progressive compared to where we are right now. Um, at that point, right, you got Elon Musk, who, what's he worth? I don't know how much, but if you take every 100 million and you're taking 90% of it, he'd only have a couple billion more. I'm not saying that that's nothing, but you know, I don't think I'm being conservative here. But you have to get to where you get to. And you may not be able to get to that right away. So if you can get to Elizabeth Warren's 2% wealth tax and you can bring together a coalition on that, do it. If you can get to AOC's 70% tax, even though I think above 10 million, it should be more like 80, 85%. Well, even at 70%, do it. Again, let's not let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Let's improve policy and help people's lives, right? Like what France does with taxes and healthcare. You should, because France has the cheapest and most effective healthcare system in the world. Let me say that again. It is the cheapest and it is the most effective. They provide, I think, if I know the system correctly, and I have friends there, and I'm actually going in a few weeks, and I lived there. So we should say that, je parle français, but that's for another time. They make sure everybody has basic insurance, as in very good basic insurance, cheap if you can afford it, nothing if you can't. And then you can buy extra insurance if you're wealthy, stuff on top of that. But you have everything you really need. Like the extra stuff is the super extra stuff. Like it's not just like here where they're like, oh, just get catastrophic insurance. We should give that to everybody. And above that, you have to take it yourself. No, it's real great health insurance for everybody. And then if you want more, you get more. Muskrat is worth 500 billion. If that is true, okay. So do the math on taking 90% of every one of 499 billion. 10%, I think, if my math is correct, it would be 49.9. So let's call it 50 billion. That's what he'd be left with, right? There you go. He'd have, if it's above $1 billion, so he'd have 51 billion, give or take, if what I think should happen happened. Too much still, and I'd even tax it at a higher rate, but 50 billion is a lot less than 500. I do like it. Lefty Grams Medicare for all. I also, though, think people should have choices. I've been a little more in favor of Medicare for all as a public option, as in you absolutely are guaranteed that. But here's the other thing. See what I was talking about before. Health insurance companies right now don't have to compete. My guess is they probably privately collude, which is illegal, and I think they've been busted for that before. But there's so few of them, and a lot of them aren't available in localities, which is ridiculous too. We should make them all that they have to have their policies national, and then there'd be more choices. They find ways so there's fewer of them. But if you had a public option that didn't have a CEO getting paid 10 million, and by the way, that CEO, as absurd as that 10 million was getting paid the least of the big 5 or 6 or whatever of the CEOs. Others were making up to like 25, 30 million. So if you take that money and save it, all the wasted administrative costs and trips on private jets and all the garbage they waste money on because they don't care. It's your money, not theirs, because they still get paid a lot. If they had to be more efficient to compete with a public option, Medicare for all, then, that's what happens in Germany and other countries. Then you could actually, and we regulated them as such, then you could allow private insurance companies to be in business too. It's just people's health would come first because they would have to compete with a public option. And if they didn't, nobody would use them. We need to celebrate when Cliff reaches 100,000. I agree. Wait, we haven't looked at that lately. 99,091. Come on, tell me we at least got one or two more. 99,099. Come on, guys. One more member. And we get to 99,100. You got to do it. Create a burner account right now. Yeah, that would be great. You're going to hear me talking about this a lot lately, guys, because I, at this point, am convinced that and I didn't like using this language in the past, but I don't think there's any sort of way around it. It is us against them. It is oligarchs against the rest of us. I mean, Elon Musk, nobody voted for him. He didn't get one vote. He's going to private. He's talking to Putin. He's going to private meetings with business executives on behalf of the government. Ridiculous. That's oligarchy. It is billionaires against us. They're not satisfied with what they have, which is sickening. They're morally sick people. So they need to be taken apart. They need to be destroyed. And no, not physically. Their bank accounts need to be destroyed. Their clout needs to be destroyed. Their influence on politics and culture needs to be destroyed. So, if anything, 100K by tomorrow's show. Well, I'll take that, Jim. I don't know. We'll have to see. Because, I accept that there are a good deal of people here that are already subscribed. So I know we have a couple thousand usually in this room. 99,105. So, okay, we did get some other people there. But I do understand that fact that there are people already subscribed and therefore would not be able to. And I don't get upset with that. That you can't subscribe twice is not your fault. What else we got? A couple more minutes, my friends. So then I'm going to talk to my new admin, and we're going to talk about get back to the Patreon plan and all that, and YouTube members. And if you're one of those folks here, because I feel terrible about it, I think we lost good 40, 50, maybe more YouTube members because that was there and we hadn't gotten the program started yet. If I can find out who you are or you're listening to me now, I'm going to ask you to please come back and rejoin because I'm going to tell you it's going to be entirely different. You'll see what happens when I make that one of my main priorities. What do we got, guys? What else we got? Look at that. See? Thank you. Marie Giangreco. That is a great name, Marie, sorry. 5 memberships gifted. That is outstanding. You are outstanding. I'm a huge fan of yours. I really, really appreciate it. Understand sometimes, guys, if I'm goofing and I'm sort of sound sarcastic. I'm kind of like sarcastic and serious at the same time. So I'm not being sarcastic. I'm, I'm being silly. I don't know how you'd put it, but I got that from Bill Murray. He just is a better comedian than me, so it may not come out as well. But thank you so much, Marie. That's really generous, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. And one of the other things, by the way, for members that we're going to add, we've decided at what level, is we are going to introduce you all on the show, unless you don't want to be. So we're going to share the names of people and who are supporting me and supporting the show and all of that. We're definitely going to do that on the live streams every time. And we'll probably I'm going to probably start doing it with various videos too. Not shorts because there's very little time, but even a 5-minute video. There's a way to thank a few people at the beginning, thank a few people at the end. We'll figure it out. I may just have an end video that comes on after every video when we do it. I don't know. We'll figure it out. You're definitely going to get thanked during this, though. This is easy. YouTube.com Cliff's Edge. All right, let's see. Do we get any more? 99,109. You guys are doing it. I think just since I brought it up, we've got up 19 members or subscribers. That is pretty good. It's great stuff. How about one more? Can we get one more subscriber so I can head on out at 99,110? Why don't we do that? Try to get that. And I'll ask for one more anything. One more super sticker. One more super chat. One more membership. Come on, guys. You don't want me to do my Jerry Maguire. Come on. Who's coming with me? Who's coming with me? Who's coming with me? This fish respects. This fish has loyalty. That's what it was. I need to rewatch the movie so I'll get it right. This fish is loyal. I'm taking the fish. Who's coming with me? Starlene said she never gets gifted subs here. It's different. Oh, it's Facebook. Well, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Although we are going to be streaming soon to Facebook too. It may be a joint project with someone who has a very large activist progressive Facebook page. Well, I am currently another project, as I've told you, I have a million projects. One of them is I let my Facebook grow organically, and I had fans of when I wrote a book and went on TV and stuff, and then also my family's there, and I want to separate those two out so I can kind of privately, you know, share stuff with family and close friends who care about that, and then the political stuff, people care about that. Here you go, Cliff. Does that mean you got a Patreon subscription I don't know about? Did you do something? Did you? Because I don't know. I'm not sure. I can't be sure of what you did. Yeah, I'm subscribed, but the join button to become a member, is that what you're looking for that, Karen? That is on the main page there. If you go to where the memberships are, and you can hit the join button. And Charcoal Blank, just Charco, comes in with a super sticker at $4.99. Completely hooks us up. Thank you. A second time you have been so kind as to give. Cliff Pledge Week. Yeah, we should do that. Well, it may be tomorrow. Maybe, Joni McGillick coming in at $2. My God, you people are awesome. Is this true? We're going to leave on a good note. Those SOBs. So Dems won't have control or possible. Yeah, if we could have our person put on, we're going to have control till 2020. Those two. Let me breathe so I don't curse and demonetize myself. I've got videos about both Manchin and Cinema. I'm going to encourage you to go watch them. The Cinema one and on what a fraud she is, because I met her. Interesting story. It was on Lefty Gramps got me a $3 super sticker. Thank you so much. That is awesome. I really appreciate it. I was on a panel with her at if you've ever been to Netroots Nation, and this was like when I was writing my book on John McCain, so they wanted McCain stuff. So they put me on there. She was a state rep from Arizona, and she's still already at that time when I met her was the biggest deal to her that she's talking about privately with me. She also was saying how McCain was terrible and she was far to the left and all this. She was always just a fraud. But the biggest deal to her was that she had this huge social media account. Like, I've got 4,000 friends on Facebook. That's true. I had this conversation with Kirsten Sinema. She is a bad person. She always was a bad person. I never wanted her to be a senator. Chuck Schumer recruited her. Chuck Schumer needs to go for that and about 1,000 other mistakes. What a terrible person. Thank God we've got Ruben Gallego, who I've also met, or I've spoken to on the phone. I never met him in person, and he is the real deal. He is terrific. Manchin was awful and terrible and whatever, but the difference is that West Virginia was West Virginia, and that was the last Democrat we were even going to get there. So I hate him. He's trash. He's horrible. He owns a mine. Don't think that I'm being nicer to him. It's just that Sinema was taking up a seat where we should have had a real Democrat. We weren't going to get that from West Virginia. So even though I loathe everything about Manchin, the arrogant jerk that he is, Sinema was a bigger deal to me because it was so ridiculous. Gifted stubs are at random. We've got that. Okay, guys, I think that this is it. I'm going to go check. And if anybody wants to get in one more super chat sticker membership under the wire, you'd be the apple of my eye. But I want to check and make sure we got one more subscriber that we lived up. Oh my gosh, we got 7 more. 99, 116. You see, maybe I should just stay here all day. Actually, do have to go. Somebody's a great picture here on Twitter over my thing today about Joe and Mika with their faces with Cheeto dust on them. I'll let you figure out what that means because, YouTube may get mad at me. Thank you so much, guys. You're fantastic. You rule. I'm not sure I'm sure there was some Patreon. And tell me if you join on Patreon too here so I can give you thanks. As I said, as part of the project, you're going to start being thanked regularly. So on here, but right now, I don't have the whole list of names in front of me. So they are both trash. Yes. Again, they're both horrible. I hate them both. I don't want anybody to think that I'm holding Sinema to any of a higher standard. They both are literally the most terrible people. They suck. They're terrible. I hate them. They're like both big piles of 2-week-old congealed cheese that have been dragged through horse feces. Okay. I just was making the point that Sinema it was that could be a progressive Democratic vote, which it now will be. So that's why I cared about that one more. Jim Williams has given you the Patreon. So anybody who can go join there, if that is your interest, please go do that. And yeah, I think that's it, guys. You're awesome. We've hit the mark where we're within 8 minutes or 7 minutes of, if I don't leave here, I will not be able to rebroadcast. And folks who can't be here right now would like to watch later. That would be a shame. So you're awesome. 17 different donations or memberships here. That is just the best. You are the best. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for convincing me that I do need to keep doing 3 of these because I love them. I could have left 20 minutes ago and I can't shut up because you guys are too much fun to talk to. You're, you know, as somebody had said here, why I should keep doing 3 of them. We want this to be a community. That's why I also hope, again, you'll go to Patreon, you'll go to the YouTube members, because I can talk to you as a community more, as, you know, there in a way where it's posts where we can go back and forth. You know, but I love you for being here. And that's what matters. You're great. Joe and Mika have Cheeto dust on their faces. You don't. And, you know, as the sun sets slowly in the west, I wish you guys a fond farewell. Thanks again.